Hi lovelies, my name is Joanne. Welcome to my channel. If this is your first time here, you're very welcome. And for my returning subscribers, thank you guys for always coming back here. In today's tutorial, you're going to be learning how to draft the bustier. You're going to learn how to contour the underbust for all sizes. And you're going to also learn how to contour the overbust. If this is something you're interested in, definitely watch this video to the end. Don't forget to like and share this video. Also, please drop a comment of what you think about this video. And if you've not subscribed to this channel yet, please, what are you waiting for, guys? Hit on the subscribe button and don't forget to turn on your notification bell for videos like this. So guys, without wasting much of your time, let's get right into the tutorial. So guys, for this tutorial, I am going to be making use of this measurement you're seeing here. So I'll start by the bust circumference, the underbust circumference, waist circumference, the front length, the back length, the bust point measurement, the nipple to nipple measurement, the front cleavage, the half length, which is the same thing as the front length, and also the back length, the shoulder measurement. And now I have gone ahead to mark out the vertical lines on this pattern paper. The first line here is the shoulder. The second one is the chest line, the bust line, the underbust, and the waistline. So to get your chest line measurements, you're going to divide your busts by 6 plus 1.5 inches. So I'm going to start by measuring from this top line, which is the shoulder line. I measured to the chest line measurement, which is 8.5 inches. The under bust I'm working with is, the bust point line I'm working with is 10.5. The under bust is 14.5, and the waistline is 17 inches plus half inch for the joining allowance, making it a total of 17.5 inches. Now from this line here, I am going to be marking the shoulder measurements. Divide your shoulder by 2, like you saw on the measurement I showed you guys. The shoulder measurement I'm working with is 16. I divided 16 by 2, I had 8 inches, and I connected a straight line all the way to the chest line. Now on the shoulder line, come down by 1.5 inches. Now for your neck width, mark 3 inches. That is the basic neck width measurement. Then connect your shoulder slope like so. From this top line here, from the shoulder line, come down by 3 inches. So we are marking, I am drafting the front pattern now, okay? And after coming down by 3 inches, I connected my basic round neckline, as you can see. Now from this line here, I'm going to get the midpoints. Then after getting the midpoints, I am going to come down by half of an inch, as you've seen me done in this video. Come down by half inch, and from that point, come inward by half inch again, and then connect from the tip of the shoulder to that point. Now also mark your bust measurement, divide by 4 on your chest line, and connect your armhole, as you can see me do here in this video. Next thing, I'm going to come here on the shoulder line, and I'm going to come down from the neck width by half of an inch around the neckline area and connect back to your shoulder slope. This is to avoid keeping on the neckline. Once you've done that, I'm going to go ahead to mark out the nipple to nipple measurements. Now the nipple to nipple measurement I am working with is 8 inches. 8 inches divided by 2 would give me 4 inches, okay? So divide your nipple to nipple measurement and get half of that measurement. Once you've gotten that, you're going to impute on your bust line and on the waistline. Now taking the dart of 0.75 on both sides on the waistline and connect all the way to the bust line to form your darts. So guys, next thing I'm going to do is to start with the measurements around the body. So come here on the waistline and divide your measurements, your waist measurement by 4, and replace your dart intake. Okay, once you've divided your waist measurement, impute on that line and replace your dart intake of 1.5 and connect back to the bust line or chest line. Having done this, I have drafted the basic bodies of this half scale. Although I haven't added the bust dart yet, but you can actually use this if you don't want to add bust dart as your basics. Next, I'm going to come here to mark out the midpoint of the shoulder. This is because I am going to start drafting out the bustier. Once you've marked the midpoint on the shoulder, connect to the bust line. Next, I'm going to come here on the bust line and mark down 2 inches for the bust dart. This is because my front length is different from the back length. My front length is 17 inches while my back length is 15 inches. So the difference is 2 inches. Measure whatever you have and impute. Moving on, I am going to be contouring the underbust. To contour the underbust, you're going to have to measure from the center front to the side line of the underbust line. Okay, you've seen me measured here from the center line to the side line. I had 10.1. I marked that down. I wrote that down by the side of this pattern paper. So disregard the dart on the underbust. When you're measuring this, just measure what you have there. And next, you're going to divide your actual underbust measurement by 4. For me, I am going to divide 31.5 by 4. 31.5 is my actual underbust measurement. Whatever I have, I am going to be writing this down. So I had 7.075 after dividing 31.5 by 4. Okay, so after marking that, writing that down, I'm going to go ahead now to subtract 7.075 from 10.1 inches, and what I had was 3.025. That is the number of inches I'm going to be using to contour the underbust. Hope you understand. So I am going to use the 3.025, divide it unequally on this underbust line, meaning that I am going to use 2.025 from the center dart line. Okay, from the center dart line, that is where you're going to mark. I marked out 2.025 on the side, and on the center I marked 1 inch. I hope you understand, making it a total of 3.025. So I'm going to mark the same thing on the waistline since I want a straight line. Okay, I marked out 2.025 from the actual dart line. Okay, and I did the same thing. I marked on the center, which is 1 inch, making it a total of 3.025. Let me go over this again. From the center dart line here, I marked out 2.025 on the side, and on the center I marked out 1 inch, making it a total of 3.025. I did the same thing on the waistline. I hope with this little explanation you can understand what I am doing here. Now I'm going to use my marker and rule out a straight line connecting the 2 points I marked from the underbust to the waistline, and on the center as well. I did the same thing. Next thing, I am going to go ahead to use my pencil to connect from here all the way to the bust point line on the bust line. Hope you understand. So see the way I am placing my cuff row. Do the same way. If you can screenshot this part, how I place the cuff row. This is how you should place your own French curve to get this curve around the underbust to the bust line. Once I was done contouring the underbusts, I'm going to proceed to contouring the overbusts. So I cannot leave this like this. If I leave this way, it will not be complete. So to contour the overbust, I'm going to come here on the neckline and place my tape there and come down by 6 inches. So this measurement I just marked is for the yoke. Okay, next I am going to come back here on the neckline as well and mark out the fullest part of my boobs. Once you've gotten that measurement, measure from your collarbone and mark out the fuller part of your breast. Once you've gotten that measurement, you're going to impute on that point. For me, I had 4 inches. I'm going to simply take a straight rule and connect a straight line. This line I just connected is my overbust line. So if you cannot take that measurement, you can come off from your chest line by 1.5 inches to 2 inches max. Okay, then I just labeled this line as the overbust line. So I have the shoulder line, the overbust, the chest line, the bust line, the underbust, and the waistline. Now to contour the overbust, I'm going to be marking 0.75 on both sides. Note that if you're very busty, you can use 1 inch on both sides, and if you have a bust of 35 inches, 36, you can use half inch on both sides. And if you're not adding yoke to this, you're going to have to use 1 inch on both sides for an average bust size. Now if you're busty, you're going to use 1.025 on both sides. Hope you're clear. Now I am going to connect this point I marked to the bust point line using a slight curve. Okay, if you like, you can use a straight rule to connect from this point all the way to this point. So guys, having gotten that intake around the overbust line, I am going to come back here on this point I marked earlier, and I'm going to be connecting it all the way to the armhole. And now I am going to take my tape rule, and I'm going to be marking out 0.75 on this line I just marked out. I marked on the center front line and the side front line. Connect it back to the bust point line. Do the same thing on this side. Next, I'm going to come here to confirm the measurement I have, and it is 0.75 on both sides. Now I am going to go ahead to close the overbust dart, as you can see. So watch how I am going to be closing this overbust dart. Coming from the center, I am going to close it towards the side. So I'm going to take my cuff row, and I'm going to be connecting the neckline. Now if you want to have yoke to your own, then go ahead and connect. If you want to have a deep yoke, go ahead and connect from the points you came down by 6 inches. Okay, for me, I don't want to have a deep yoke for this bustier, so I'm simply going to mark out the new neckline for this bustier. So after marking that, I used this tracing wheel to trace this line here, so it reflects on the part of the pattern paper that I folded in. And I went ahead to clean out other lines that I'm not going to be using for this tutorial, leaving only the last line I drew for the neckline. So I have traced out the line on this other part, so I went ahead to use my hand to just draw out and blend in on the line. So guys, after blending in, I am going to still confirm what I have here by extending this line to the new neckline. And then I'm going to use my tape and confirm if what I have is 0.75 from this line here. I'm going to confirm what I have on both sides if it's 0.75. So what I had was actually less than 0.75. So I'm going to simply replace like 0.1 on both sides, and I'm going to connect it back to the line, into the line. I'm going to clean out the old line. I don't like having too many lines. I will draw this back so we have just single lines. Next, I am going to come to the yoke and I'm going to be contouring the yoke as well. If you don't contour the yoke, your yoke would come out bigger than the bustier itself once you finish joining the bustier. To close the yoke, I'm going to come here on each of these darts on the overbust, and I'm going to be marking half of the dart intake. Okay, mark half of 0.75 on one side and half of 0.75 on the second part side of the dart. Once you've marked that, go ahead and use your straight tool and connect all the way to the shoulder like so. So with this, I have successfully closed the dart on the yoke. Now I am going to come here and replace the dart intake on the overbusts, and also mark out the body measurements. So close the dart of 0.75 on this part. Okay, note that whatever you use as your dart intake, that is what you're going to be replacing. I used 0.75 on both sides. I replaced just 0.75. If you use 1 inch, please replace 1 inch. Okay, if you use 1 inch on both sides, replace only 1 inch. If you use 1.025 on both sides, replace just 1.025. Hope you're clear. Now I'm going to come here and take the body measurements. Divide your waists by 4 and subtract that if you want to snatch this. Okay, for me, I want to snatch the waistline, so I'm going to be subtracting, let's say 1.5. I don't want to subtract so much from my waist measurement, so I subtracted 1.5 inches from my waist measurements, and then what I had left, I divided the remaining measurements by 4 and I replaced my dart intake. Now on the underbust, divide your underbust measurement by 4 and impute on the underbust line. Don't forget to replace your dart on the underbusts. So guys, I'm going to come here on the neckline. I'm going to be making an alteration on the neckline. So I marked out ½ inch, okay, making a total of 3.5 inch for my neck width, and I used my pencil to connect all the way to the yoke, as you can see. To close this bust dart, I'm going to have to slash this line like so, close to the nipple points. I'm going to close it. To close it, I'm going to cut through this center dart line, close to the bust point line. I'm going to go ahead to close this, and I'll use my masking tape to mask that for it to remain closed permanently. And I have a little shortage around this part, so I'm simply going to replace it, as you can see. Now I am going to proceed to cutting out the excesses. On the bust line, I'm going to close this dart on the yoke. From the center, I'm going to close it towards the side. I'm now going to use my masking tape, and I'm going to be masking this. So if you have any shortage on your yoke, go ahead and replace it. On this yoke, I'm going to be styling it a bit. So I'm going to be marking out from the center yoke. I'm going to be marking like 2.5 inches. And from here, I am also going to mark out 2 inches, but I ended up using 2.5 inches. So I'm going to take my row and connect like a V shape around this part. Okay, I'll do the same thing here on the side. And I'm going to cut that part out. Once you open up your yoke, this is how it's going to be. Had to cut this one here so you guys can see what this would look like. I'll label this as the yoke. So I have the yoke, the center front, and the side front. This is the back pattern paper. First, I'm going to be taking out the zipper bulge of 0.75 on the side part of the zipper. Okay, so once you've done that, go ahead and take your straight row and connect all the way to the top part like this. This is going to be out. That's why I shaded that. That's for the zipper bulge. Okay, and then from the center back, mark out your shoulder measurement divided by 2. Do the same thing on the chest line measurement and connect this into a straight line. For the shoulders, for the neck width, mark out the basic neckline of 3 inches, and for the shoulders loop back, mark out 1 inch for the back and connect your shoulders loop. Next, I'm going to come here on the neckline. For the neck depth, I'm going to be marking out 8 inches, but I ended up using 8.5 inches later in this video. I made a point there. I'll come back here on the neck depth and I'm going to be marking 1 inch. I'll connect a round neckline from this point all the way to the neck width. On this point here, I am going to come down by 0.25 and I'm going to be connecting it back to the shoulder slope. This is to avoid caping around the neckline. And I'm going to connect from the neck width all the way to this point. So to do that, I'm going to be marking 3.5 inches. Remember, we marked 3.5 inches on the front pattern. So do the same thing on the back pattern and connect it all the way to the point I marked earlier. Next, I'm going to come here on this straight line to get the midpoints for the armhole curve. Come in here by 1/2 inch, and then I'm going to come here from this point and mark. I'm going to measure up the bust measurement divided by 4 and impute on that chest line. Now I'm going to take my cuff rule and connect the armhole. Going to label this as the back. Okay, don't forget to add your zipper allowance either on your pattern paper or after you've cut out your pattern paper. Please make sure you add on your fabric. Now I'll come here from this line here and mark out the dart intake. Okay, now from this line, mark out your nipple to nipple measurement by 2, divide it by 2, and you're going to mark on the chest line and on the waistline and connect a straight line like so. And now on this waistline, I am going to be marking the dart intake of, let's say, 1/2 inch on both sides, and I'm going to connect it all the way to the chest line. Next, I'm going to start taking the body measurements. On the waistline, I'm going to be taking the waist measurements, divide my waist measurement by 4. If you're subtracting anything on the waist measurement, please go ahead and subtract before you divide the measurement by 4 and replace your dart intake. Now I'm going to connect the side line. Okay, on the neck depth, I'm going to extend the line all the way to the chest line. Next, I'm going to be marking down 0.75 from the armhole. This is because I am going to be adding an inner corset on the back pattern. So go ahead and mark down 0.75. That's if you're adding an inner corset. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and cut out the excesses. I just realized that I did not mark out the yoke for the back, so I'm going to place my cuff rule and mark out the yoke like so and extend this dart intake. Label this as the yoke. Okay, I'm going to cut out the dart intake. So this is where I'm going to be joining. This is the center back and the side back. So guys, we have come to the end of this tutorial. I am going to be posting the sewing tutorial. If you want to see that video, please stay tuned and don't forget to click on the subscribe button. Thank you guys, and see you in my next one.